Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. This is your host Amina Ahmed, and you're watching Muslim Network TV. Welcome back to another episode of Next Gen, where we speak with young change makers of our generation. You're watching us on Galaxy 19 satellite, MuslimNetwork.tv, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and Apple TV as well. Now, today's guest is an avid reader, and many readers would love to tell you about how much they love to read. But our guest today, Jackie Barba, not only will tell you about how much she loves to read, but she is also in the process of building a library in her hometown in Mexico. Jacqueline, she is a student at Downers Grove South and hopes to study journalism in college. She's also a state competitor for speech and debate. Jacqueline has done phenomenal work, not only in speech, but is also, like I said, has a love for reading, and she's sharing that love by building a library in her hometown. Thank you so much, Jacqueline, for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you. When I read about your story, I love reading too, but I never thought of, building a library for people who are underprivileged. You not only saw an issue back in your hometown, but you also sought out to solve that issue. Tell us more about this project of building a library.
So the library, it was actually the start of my Gold Award project. I've been a Girl Scout since I was in kindergarten, and a Gold Award project is the highest honor that a Girl Scout can receive. It's about giving back to communities that you're a part of, and about uplifting girls if possible. And so I was on a trip to visit my family in Mexico, and my little cousin was having difficulty learning how to read. And I was like, well, what kind of books do you like? What do you check out from the library? What do you like to read? You should read more stuff that you like, and that makes reading easier. She was like, we don't have a library at school. And, my own ignorance, I grew up here in, a very privileged community where schools were just always had a library. So I was shocked, and I was like, what do you mean you don't have a library? And I had been looking for a project for this Gold Award. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure out a way to get books and get a library into this school. It's an all-girls school that she goes to that has over 500 students. And they just needed a library. And so I was like, I'll do it. I'll figure it out.
I feel like you say it like it's such an easy thing, like you're talking about, just performing a daily task, but you're, building a library in a different country for, like you said, people who don't have the same privileges that you do. What stage are you at right now with that library? Are you done? Still in the process?
So right now we're still in the process, but we're close to the finish line. I, was so blessed in receiving so much support from my community. We had so many book donations. And so with COVID, I think I had a few challenges where my original shipping plan kind of had to be changed and adapted to the pandemic. So it kind of backtracked me a little bit. But currently, we are close to the finish line. We have books in Mexico already. And now we're just waiting on kind of getting the last batch there and then getting them into the school. Currently, the school is doing remote learning, so we're hoping, fingers crossed, the pandemic willing, that by the next school year, the girls will be able to come into the school and actually get to use the books and, participate in actually being in the library.
Yeah, and do the girls know about this project? Do they know that there's going to be a library built at their school?
I think a few of them do. I know that my cousin knows about it because obviously she hears me talk about it. And I think word probably would have spread faster if they were all in school. But right now they don't really know that much because they're at home. But I'm hoping that once they actually get to go in and see the library and, read the books and stuff, that they'll get just as excited as I am about it.
Yeah, I hope so too. And what do you hope to achieve, by putting out this library? What is the end goal here?
I think there's so many things that go into the library that I hope will come of it, but there's two primary things. I think The first is that the core of what the library represented for me was being able to share my love of reading with others. You know, I truly am who I am because of every book that I've read, and the way that reading has shaped me is something that I find so important in my own life, and I wanted to make sure that other girls had that opportunity. So if one girl finds a book in this library and is able to change her life because of it, you know, realizes that girls can be astronauts, or girls have come before her and paved the way for her to do whatever she wants, those are things that I hope, you know, will be the legacy of this library. And then the second one is just promoting girls' literacy. We know that books and a love of reading are one of the easiest ways to make sure that girls are independent, that they're educated, that they can pave ways for themselves, but they can't do that if they don't have resources to do it. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's not enough to just teach kids to read. They need to have the resources to go out there and be able to promote their own literacy in their own lives. So making sure that this library shows that girls' literacy is not only important, but they should have the resources to ensure that girls' literacy is important and that the girls know that.
That's so beautiful that you hope to inspire these girls. You know, you said even if one girl is inspired by one of the books that she reads in this library, you will feel fulfilled. You know, your goal is to empower them at the end of the day. But I want to talk about how reading has empowered you. You said that you wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for reading. I see that huge bookshelf in the background, right behind you. Tell us more about, you know, your relationship with reading.
I truly, it sounds really dramatic, but I feel like I have been an avid reader since before I was born. My mom says that she used to read books to me when I was like, even before I was born. And then obviously when I was little, I remember my favorite books were Just How Much I Love You. There was the Biscuit books. I don't remember, but I know that I've always really loved to read. So it's just been a part of me for as long as I can remember. I can't really backtrack to the very first time that I was like, I'm such an avid reader. It's just been like a habit for so long. But it's just something so important to me because I think no matter what position in your life you're in, no matter what's going on in your own life, books can not only serve as an escape, but they can serve as a way to, you know, not feel so alone. There's been plenty of times in my own life that I've gone through a difficult situation and I've opened up a book and I've been like, okay, this character's going through the same thing I'm going through, or, you know, here's an inspiration for me in this book. And if you want to learn anything, you can learn it through a book. So for me, books have just been such a catalyst of not only, you know, comfort, they're a source of comfort for me, but they're also just a way to motivate myself and to go out there and take my education and my own will into my own hands and figure out how to do it using a book.
Yeah, it seems like you find comfort in the books that you read. You find, you know, that you are not alone, like you said, that there are situations that those main characters also go through and you find relatable. But do you feel like nowadays with the rise of social media, with people just, you know, scrolling through TikTok all the time, and I feel like I can totally relate to that, but do you feel like that has kind of caused a lot of young people to move away from reading and not do it as often as people perhaps in the past would?
I think it's like a two-folded issue. So first of all, yeah, with the rise of social media, I think a lot of people just use that and kind of fill their time with that. And I mean, I'm an avid reader and there's times that I'm like, God, instead of going on Instagram, I should probably like crack open that book. So I'm guilty as much as everybody else. But I think that I'm on top of that, there's just so little time to read nowadays. You know, as a high school student, I know that if you're taking AP classes, if you're in extracurriculars, if you're doing all of this stuff, it can feel like there's so many hours in the day that are dedicated to everything except reading. Mm-hmm. So I think it's hard not only in the first place to find time to read, but then, yeah, of course, everybody gets distracted with social media and it's just such an easy, like, quick way to distract yourself that it feels much easier than opening up a book.
Yeah, and what do you do to kind of take out that time to read all the books that you have behind you? I know that that wall is a lot bigger than we can see on camera, but what do you do do you dedicate, a certain amount of time daily, or how do you, work around that?
So I'm not super, I won't say that I'm like an angel at it, because I definitely, there's times that I'm like, oh, you know what, you should have put down the phone and read instead. But the way that I try to do is I like to chunk out time for myself. Most of the time it's at the end of the night, where I'm just like, all right, I'm going to take a break. I know that reading is something that brings me so much comfort and so much peace, and especially in times like these where things are so crazy and there's so many uncertain things. Um, it's almost like a form of self-care for me. So I try to make sure that at the end of the night, I'm like, okay, at least 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be 30. It doesn't have to be an hour. You don't have to finish all of the chapters in the book, but take 10 minutes to just kind of decompress, put your phone away, and read for a little bit. And that has been a really great way for me to kind of find time in the day. But I also think I also just always carry a book with me. And if I have a few free moments, that's what I do.
Yeah. And hopefully the young people in our audience can take some advice from that, take out some time to put your technology away, just, shut everything off and take that 10 minutes to just sit and read. And like you said, it is a form of self-care for a lot of us. I think I can totally agree with that. But we'll continue talking about your love for reading and this project that you started as a result of that right after our short break. You're all watching us on Galaxy 19 satellite, MuslimNetwork.tv, Amazon Fire TV, Roku, and Apple TV as well. We'll be right back.
Billboards are popping up all over the country with an...
Our neighbors don't realize that Muslims are absolutely opposed to ISIS.
Salam. My name is Abdul Malik Mujahid. I'm an imam in Chicago.
16 shots! No me! No justice! No me!
So how do we bring up the energy which can really have an impact on the world? You need to build bridges of understanding among people, and we need to have America moving forward. That lesson learned have brought the strength of humanity to America, which is the diversity.
Mujahid Talks, only on Muslim Network TV. Faithfully connected.
Welcome back to NextGen. I'm here with Jackie Barba, who has started a project to share her love for reading with the underprivileged back in her hometown in Mexico. Jackie, bringing it back to your project, how many books do you hope to distribute monthly, or what is your plan to carry this out?
So right now my hope is just to get as many books as I can. I actually, the way that I started the library was I have an Amazon wish list that I curated with the help of my advisor, Miss Lori Barber, who has been such a big help to me. She's a teacher. And so we kind of went through and picked books that we felt were important and could help promote not only learning how to read, but then how to continue reading in the future. And so right now, in the first few stages of the project, it was about gathering as many books as we could, getting that Amazon wish list out there, and getting those lovely donations. And now I think we've collected probably well over 300 books, if I had to guess off the top of my head. And we're just trying to get them down to the school. And hopefully make sure that those are safe and secure there. And then if we continue to get donations to kind of continue putting them down there so that the kids can access them, obviously. But for now, I think our main concern or our main goal is just to make sure that all of the books that we've already collected are down in the school, set up and ready to go for the next school year.
Awesome. So you've made this wish list. People have donated, shown interest. Hopefully you're able to expand that wish list as well, whenever you get the books that you already have down there. But are there any genres or anything specific that you are trying to get there, or is it a bunch of everything?
It's a bunch of everything. I will say that when you're dealing with which is something I actually didn't even know until I made the library, because I don't have a teaching background. There's a lot of steps in making sure that a kid not only learns how to read, but then continues reading. So there was everything from what are called learner books, which are books that are kind of like just words and shapes and just like few sentences so that kids can kind of get into the groove of reading, to picture books, to chapter books, to, you know, like your bigger, more complicated type of reading. So we wanted to make sure there was a little bit of everything from fantasy to nonfiction to poetry. But I think one of the key things that we did was we made sure that there was an emphasis on Hispanic culture. This is a library in Mexico. And so I wanted books that had Mexican history, that had Mexican historical figures who, you know, brought back this idea that libraries tell the stories of who we are. And part of who these girls are and part of who I am is that I'm Mexican. So I wanted that background represented in the library. So we made a big effort to kind of look for Hispanic or Latinx figures in history and make sure that those books were also in the library, and also just books that were about Hispanic culture and different traditions that are probably what these girls are growing up around. And so they could see themselves and their lives reflected in the library.
Yeah, and what language are these books in?
They're in Spanish. So that was another, I think, a little bit of a roadblock, was that there's plenty of books out there in the world, obviously, but then finding and making sure that there was books that we recognize that are obviously printed in English that are printed in Spanish. You know, I wanted to make sure that the library was a functional part of the school. And even though these girls might have lessons in English, I wanted the library to be in Spanish because that's their language that they're speaking at home, that they're speaking with their friends. So the books that they're reading should be in that language. But it definitely presented a few roadblocks for us in trying to find and make sure that books that we knew and loved were printed in Spanish and were available for purchase.
Right, but you didn't obviously let that roadblock kind of get to you. You still continued. And I want to know what the future for this project looks like, because I know what it took for you to get here. It's obviously not been the easiest journey, but you are here right now. You're almost completed. You almost finished with this project, right? But what does the future for it look like? You're going to college as well. That adds a lot more responsibility on your plate.
Right. I haven't hammered out the details yet, but I personally hope that I can remain involved in the library in the sense that I would like to go back and visit and make sure that everything is running smoothly. But in terms of the future of it, and I don't know what timeline this will happen at, because obviously, like you said, I'm going to college and there's going to be other stuff in my life, but it's such a passion project for me. You know, the library is really just this physical, tangible representation of me trying to share my love of reading with others and promoting girls' literacy and making sure that kids have resources available to them to promote their own literacy is such an important thing to me. So in the future, I'm hoping that, you know, this is not the only school that doesn't have a library. These are not the only girls who don't have this access. I would love to figure out a way to make the project, which is called Jackie's Biblioteca, a larger project where we could kind of set up almost in a way GoFundMes for individual schools so that more libraries could be built and more books could be donated and more girls could have access to books. And, you know, maybe one day boys and girls and schools across, you know, Mexico or even Latin America. Obviously that's thinking big, but just hoping that I can really expand the project beyond this one school and kind of use what I learned in this one example to push it out beyond just the one school and give that access to others.
I like how your plan for this is huge, right? That you want to expand it so much more than where it is at right now. But how can people who are watching donate? How can they contribute to all of it?
So currently we are still taking book donations. So you can visit the Amazon wish list and look through that and kind of pick out and donate some lovely books if you would like to. And then I think just sharing and spreading the word about it has been so helpful for me. You know, every time that I've thought, okay, well, that's probably, you know, as much word as I can get out there, more and more people have contacted me and they've been like, I heard from so-and-so that you have this library. It's so great. And that kind of support is just so important to me because that's what keeps the project running. It keeps the books coming in. It keeps me thinking, okay, they can be bigger than all of this. You know what I mean? So definitely just if you feel so inclined to donate some books at the Amazon wish list, and then also just to share it. Word of mouth is so important to keeping the project alive and making sure that it gets out there.
I'll definitely be sending my support your way, and I hope that our audience too, you know, donates, they contribute to this wonderful, wonderful project that you've started, Jackie. Thank you so much for being here with us today on NextGen.
No, thank you so much for having me.
It was an absolute pleasure to have you today, Jackie. And thank you to our audience for tuning in to NextGen. And until next time, Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you.